Welcome to Parent Coaches Unleashed with Cari and Jessica, where no topics are taboo or off limits. Join us as we let loose and discuss the real, raw feelings about parenting.
In each episode, we will bring you heartfelt discussions, real-life stories, and special guests that will both entertain you and encourage community so no one feels alone in their parenting journey.
Thanks so much for listening. Now let's start the show.
Hi, everybody. Today, we have the privilege of having a very unusual situation. We have two Caris. We have our Cari, and then we have Cari D'Angelo. We're going to maybe be referencing her as Cari D, so we don't get confused while listening, or for us talking.
I might get confused.
Yeah, we don't want to confuse our Cari.
And you say Cari, I might provide an answer. So we'll see. I'll try to maybe I'll do less talking and more listening today. So
Okay, well, why don't you start by just introducing Cari?
all right.
Cari D, that is.
Cari D. So I actually had the privilege of meeting Cari D about 5 or 6 years ago. She was the school counselor at an elementary school where I had volunteered, and I was a listener in the listening program of Broward County Schools. So I met her in a different capacity, but it was, nice to reconnect with her as we are both now doing different careers. And so it'll be really nice today to catch up and hear about Cari D's new career. That's going to lead me into Cari D'Angelo has over 20 years of experience as a therapist, a teacher, and a school counselor. So lots of different hats Cari D wears.
And a lot of experience, too.
Yes. She is also a single parent who has experienced 2 divorces, one involving addiction, and the second, which came as a complete shock. She also experienced divorce as a child herself and wished that her own mom had help after her own divorce, navigating both the emotional and co-parenting challenges. So after her own struggles, including failed mediation and significant legal expenses, Cari has found peace and strength in single parenting. So clearly we're going to talk a lot about this today. These personal experiences combined with her professional background led her to become a certified divorce coach. So we welcome Cari to our show and episode today. And
Thank you.
thank you for joining us. I'm just going to jump right in. On a previous podcast episode, we interviewed a single dad and got his perspective on single parenting. So first off, Cari, as a single mom, can you share with us what your experience has been like raising your son? And you have one, correct? Just one.
I do. I have one. He is going to be 9 next month. So he's still in that school aged. His dad and I split up when he was 3. So he was really little. Now, at this point in my single parenthood, I have him about 90% of the time, which I think is unusual. So I wanted to kind of mention that because it's not that typical 50-50 that most people have.
Sure, okay.
But I think I talk to a lot of people and some of my friends that are in unhappy marriages, and they say I'm a single married mom, right? Like I'm married, but I'm doing all these things by myself. And I'm like, well, not really, because you can still go to the gym at 5 a.m. if you wanted to, because there's another adult in the house, or you could run to Target at 8:30 at night because there's another adult in the house. As a single parent, that changes for you drastically.
Sure.
Also, another big thing that people don't realize is, yes, you're without that spouse, maybe the headache, or maybe the fighting, or maybe the mistrust. You lose all of those negative things, but you also lose some time with your children, right? Like You might lose some holidays. You might lose some birthdays. You might lose that, huge Thanksgiving get together that you guys always went to every year. Now that's different,
Right.
right? So single parenting is different for a lot of people. Some people have a lot of family support. I don't. So that's a little bit different. Some people have a whole village of single parents that they're also friends with, that they can kind of like share that responsibility of who's picking up from school and who's dropping off to camp and things like that. So it's different for everybody, and you kind of have to figure out what works best for you and your situation.
And so at this point, how long have you been divorced? And like, how long has it taken you to figure out your stride in single parenting?
Yeah. So my ex and I split up about 5.5 years ago, and the divorce was finalized 4 years ago, I would say. I would say that I pretty much, that first year or two was rough, going through the emotions of it. And like you mentioned, the very high legal bills,
Mm-hmm.
figuring out like what I wanted, him figuring out what he wanted as far as like developing the parenting plan and the marital settlement agreement and all of that. But I would say the past 3 years, at least 3 out of 5, have been pretty great. I found my stride. We've got a system, adjusting to different things. I kind of came up with a spin on, sharing holidays when I don't have him. So just kind of getting creative and kind of like owning it and not sitting in a puddle of pity and crying in the corner.
So you say that that this happened 5.5 years ago, and the
Mhm.
last 3, 4 years have been good ones.
Yeah.
When you were going through your divorce, did you have, other than your lawyer, I know you say now you don't have a lot of family support, but did you have support then? Who did you turn to when you had questions about what you were going through, or even just dealing with the emotions of what you were working on?
Yeah. So my dad, unfortunately, my dad had some experience with divorce. So I would go to him a lot. And I think being, not to be like stereotypical, but being a man, he's a little bit less, or he was a little bit less emotional about things. So that was always his advice to me. Like, you need to take the emotion out of it. You need to take the emotion out of it. Well, as a, 40-year-old woman getting a divorce with a 3-year-old, that was really hard to do.
Yeah.
He did give me some good solid advice about, what to stick with, what to be flexible on, how to move forward, how to plan financially, things like that.
Mhm.
But that emotional support, I really leaned on a couple of my friends.
Okay.
I didn't, unfortunately, 5.5 years ago, I didn't know that divorce coaching was a thing.
Right.
And I feel like a lot of people still don't know
Yeah.
divorce coaching is a thing. So, like I had mentioned when Carrie was reading my kind of introduction, I wish my mom had that in the 90s. I certainly wish that I would have had a divorce coach to validate all those feelings of like, oh my gosh, there must be something wrong with me. Or like, I can't miss anything with my child. I'm going to be replaced by this new significant other. Just all of those kind of fears
Yeah.
that come into place. Like, that's all normal stuff.
And I imagine there are things that come up that you don't think about unless you're going through it.
Right. Right.
So then where did you make the transition into coaching? Where did you say, "Aha, this is what I wanna do?"
Yeah. So, like Carrie was also saying, like the 20 years experience, I have a master's degree in marriage and family therapy. I've always kind of been a helper. I've always been the person people call to vent to get advice from, all of that kind of stuff. And I enjoy that. It really fills my cup to help other people. Right. So,
Me too, Carrie. Maybe it comes with the name.
maybe it comes with the name. Maybe it comes with the name. But, I having that background and then being that classroom teacher and having those families trust me with their child all day,
Mhm.
and then becoming the school counselor where now I don't have 20 kids, I have 1,000 families that are coming to me. I feel like it was kind of a natural progression with given my personal history with experiencing divorce in different ways, but 3 times throughout my life, and then my professional background as well. It just kind of came together. I was kind of tired of the public school rules and politics, and I was like, how can I do something with what I already have, right? Because I have a big bag of tools, and as Cari was reading it, I was kind of like, wow, yeah, I did that. Yeah, I did that.
I'm pretty impressive.
It was nice. It was nice to hear. But it was kind of like, how can I use all of that and continue to help other people, right?
Sure. Was part of your decision, was there any influence over the fact that maybe you being a single parent now, did you need to have more flexibility? Or was it just truly you were really digging deep about what it was that you wanted to do at this stage of your life?
I mean, I feel like if both is an answer, I'm going to go with both because, I also have lost both of my parents, right? So having that experience of, my mom passed away when I was pregnant with my son. My dad passed away about 2.5 years ago before I started this coaching journey.
Hmm.
And I was kind of like, we don't get these days back. We don't get this opportunity back. So I need to do the best I can with what I have. So I want to be there for my son. I want to volunteer in the classroom. I want to go on the field trips. I want to be able to do all of that. And this coaching business has given me the freedom to do that, but also fills my cup because I can help other people with the things that I've personally experienced. Like I've walked the path, I've been there. And the more people that I talk to about my personal experience, the more people are like, oh, wow. Oh, so you've been through it. And I'm kind of like, yeah. I don't realize how uncommon it is, I guess.
Yeah.
Do you find that not having a background in divorce law, do you find that that has any does that weigh one way or another on your coaching style? Or do you feel like you gained enough knowledge from your own experiences to guide people through whatever processes they're going through?
Yeah. I think that there's pros and cons to everything, right? Like, I know that there's coaches that have more of the law background and they can kind of come at it from a different angle than I can. And we can both serve different people for different stages of their life. I think that I kind of approach divorce from the emotional side of it. I mean, yes, I am very much of a to-do list person and like I want to check things off the list. So if you have the financial affidavit looming over your head, we're going to try to get that done. But I'm not the type of coach that's going to say, hey, you need to get this done. And I'll talk to you in a week when it's all done. If it's not done, I'm like, okay, what got in the way? Do you want to do 5 pages together? Like, how can we get this done? Because it's just a different style. I don't think that one is right or one is wrong. I think it's just different for different people. Through my life, I've had different therapists, right? And some have given me that tough love, right? Of like, psh, psh, what's wrong with you? And then some are like, oh no, come here, give me a hug, and have more of that motherly, comforting
Yeah.
aspect.
Yeah. The validation.
And they've both been good for me at that time. They were exactly what I needed at that time.
Okay.
So I think it just depends on the person and what they need. Some people need a lot of hand holding and some people just need a kick in the butt.
Right. So I guess hiring a divorce coach would then be similar to hiring a therapist, where you need to have that consultation, see if the personalities align or that you feel comfortable walking the path right together. Does that, you know, does that make
Yeah, and I would
now?
and I would say one, a lot of people because coaching is on the newer side of things, right?
Mhm.
I would say one distinction that people should have is that coaching for me and my coaching, it's more about like meeting you where you're at and moving you forward.
Mhm.
where sometimes therapists, it's more about like looking into your past and your family of origin and possibly diagnosis or talking about medication. And for me, that's not how coaching works.
Right.
So I think, depending on, again, what you're looking for and what you want, coaching might be the right choice for you. And then deciding which coach is a good fit for you as well.
So you've had the unique experience of working with both parents and children
Mm-hmm.
in your line of work. Do you bring that to your coaching style as well, being able to help identify different parenting styles?
Mm-hmm.
And how does that play into the whole parenting plan?
So what I have learned through the 20 years of working with kids and working with parents is that kids don't have a lot of control, right? They don't, getting mad at a third grader because they're late to school when their parents drove them to school, it doesn't make a lot of sense, right?
Sure. Mhm.
So kids don't have a lot of control who their parents are, if their parents are married, if their parents get divorced, right? But the parents have that impact. So my work, my mission is to help parents put their kids first, not in the middle, but first, right? So they're thinking about what's best for little Johnny, for the holiday time, right? Is it better to go to, mom's house in the morning for Thanksgiving and dad's house in the afternoon for Thanksgiving? Is that better? Or should we flip flop, odd years and even years? What's best for the kids? Not mom and dad, but the child.
Do you find that you have to point that out often?
I find that I have to remind them. I
Mhm.
think most parents do want to put their kids first, and they care about their kids and they want what's best for their kids. But sometimes they lose sight of that because they only can focus on the bullseye
Yeah.
on their ex.
Does Johnny have a say?
It depends on how old Johnny is,
Okay.
right? Like, I think that, the 6-year-old that, no, I don't want to go to mom's house or I don't want to go to dad's house because whatever parent has rules and screen time limits and expectations and things like that. Of course, little Johnny doesn't want to go to their house because they have to like do their homework, right? But I think when kids get older, I think they should have more of a say, you know?
Okay. Can you explain to us how you parent alongside an ex spouse, right? So, how does that work? Is it truly co parenting? Is there a way for it to be 50-50 support, even though you're saying your son stays with you 90% of the time? Is there a way for that to be shared evenly, or is it lopsided? And I guess speaking from your perspective would be probably the most helpful.
Right. So there's a couple of different parenting vocabulary words, right? There's the co-parenting that we always hear about. The co-parenting is like truly we're co-pilots. We're helping each other out. If you can't pick up from soccer, I'll pick up from soccer, even if it's not my day. You're co-pilots, you're co-parents, right? Then there's something called parallel parenting, where I'm going to do what I'm going to do, you're going to do what you're going to do, and we're parallel next to each other, right? We're not really helping each other out, but we're not against each other, right? And then there's counter parenting, where, mom says soccer is great, dad says soccer is terrible. Dad says, football is great, mom says football is terrible. So there's a couple of different things. Now, you can imagine what's best for kids.
Poor Johnny. Ugh.
I know. You can imagine what's best for kids is that co-parenting, right? That like,
Sure.
we're all getting together. We can have birthday parties together. We don't have to do everything separately. And the parents are getting along for the best of Johnny, right? For me and my situation personally, it's a little bit different because dad lives in Ohio. I'm in South Florida.
Okay.
So nobody's picking up from soccer unless it's me,
Wait, just time out for 1 second. It's something I'm curious about. In your divorce agreement, Was there something that said one parent is able to move out of state? How does that work?
So our agreement has morphed over the past few years.
Okay.
Originally, he lived here in the same county as I did or do, and he was like 20 or 30 minutes away. And at that time, I think that our time sharing split was more like 35-65, and that's what he wanted, right? So that was what we did. I know that 50-50 is great. 50-50 is kind of where the judge draws the line, but if the two parents want something besides 50-50, if they want to get creative and they agree on it, that's totally fine, right? Like that'll be signed off on. So I think we started out at that 35-65. About a year after the divorce was finalized, he moved about 2 hours away. So our time sharing changed, but I didn't go and change the document.
So it didn't have to be changed in court.
We
had
just
a
worked it
verbal
out
agreement.
between ourselves,
Okay.
right? So he lived about 2 hours away. That lasted for about a year, and then he moved to Ohio.
Was he still able to keep the 35-65 or no, you went down? Okay.
No. It was less than that because then it was basically just every other weekend, and then, like, the holiday time sharing and summers were a little bit different, but it was much less than 35%. I don't know what it was. It wasn't worth me figuring out the numbers.
Yep.
But then after that, he moved to Ohio. He has a younger son, and the younger son and mother were in Ohio, so he went to Ohio, and he's been there for about a little over 2 years. So at that point, I was like, "Hey, we need to redo the parenting plan because time sharing is drastically different."
Yeah.
He had gotten a different job. We needed to look at, child support and things like that a little bit differently. I wanted to change, like, who was responsible for health insurance, things like that. So the 90-10 is what it is for us. I don't think that it's ideal for kids. I think that there's pros and cons, right? Like it's more consistent for my son.
Sure.
He doesn't have to lug things back and forth between houses.
Mm-hmm.
It's consistent like that, but he doesn't have as much time with his dad, you know? And that's unfortunate because I do think that, most parents are good parents and kids need good parents.
Yeah.
I don't remember what we were talking about before we.
I interrupted, but we were talking about the different styles. We were talking about co-parenting,
Oh,
parallel
okay.
parenting,
Yeah.
and counter-parenting.
Right.
Yeah.
A journey.
So I think like right now, I would say that in my situation, we're probably more parallel parenting. It's hard to co-parent when you're 1,000 miles away from each other.
Sure. Do you still talk about things as they pertain to parenting, or like Johnny's going through this right now? Do you have any thoughts or experience with it, or do you just make all of the decisions?
Fortunately, unfortunately, I used to make a lot of the decisions when we were together, and I have been tasked with that now. So I pretty much make all of the decisions. There might be some things that I'm like, hey, here's a big hurdle, and what do you think? But it's mainly just me sharing what's going on. I would like him to be more involved, to be honest with you, but you can't make anybody do something that they don't want to do. So I just kind of do the best I can with my son and what I can control and, let it ride.
Is that a conversation that parents have? Like, how involved do you want to be? Or I would like you to be more involved. Like, obviously, you can't force someone, like you're saying,
Right.
to be more involved, but
Right.
you can express your wishes that it would be more helpful to Johnny if you took part in A, B, and C.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I personally have had that conversation a few times
Mm-hmm.
because it's been 5.5 years, right? And we circle back and things like that. But I would advise other people, other parents to have that conversation for the best interest of your child. Like, hey, he's really struggling with this, or he's struggling with that, or he did a great job with this or that, honor roll or sports, or his team won, or whatever the case is. Like having that other parent kind of more involved, I think makes all the difference in the world, because I think there's something ingrained in us as children that we want our parents' approval. We want our parents' love. We want our parents to, think that we're the bee's knees. And if you're not hearing that from your parent, you're kind of wondering, like, how am I doing?
Right. It's all about being seen and heard for
Yeah.
the kids.
Showing up, just showing up, right? Like,
The first step in parenting, show up for your kid.
So do you feel like that you have to provide both for your child? Yes.
yes, I do. And I'm also well aware that I can't,
Right.
right? Like, I can't do both. I do my very best to, wrestle on the couch and throw the football in the backyard and do those more typical dad kind of things. But I also know that I'm mom, So it's taken me a while to realize that, like, that doesn't mean that I'm any less, right? Like,
Of course.
that is not to my shortcoming. It's not a cup that I have to fill. It's not a cup that I'm responsible to fill. I'm just really aware of it. And I do the best I can to, toss a splash in there every once in a while.
So, if someone was going through a divorce, when would you tell them to seek advice from a coach? Is there a sweet spot? Is there a time that makes the best sense to reach out to you?
So, a coach, for me at least, in my coaching, I think that somebody could reach out at any point in it, right? I think that more importantly than where you are at in the process is that you're ready to get started with the coach. If somebody calls me and they're like, I'm really miserable, I want to get a divorce. This is the reason I want to get a divorce, but I haven't done anything. You're my first phone call, but I'm ready. I'm going to start working with them on, okay, do you really want a divorce? Do you know what divorce looks like? Do you have children? Do you understand that you might not have every Thanksgiving? You might not have every birthday. Is that okay with you? Like the reality of divorce, right? And then I'm going to be talking to them about what's going on with them, like validating all of those feelings. Then we're going to start building the team of professionals that they might need. They might need a financial advisor that's familiar with the divorce. They will likely need a divorce attorney. What kind of divorce attorney? Collaborative? Mediator? There's a lot of options that people don't realize. Do they need a realtor to sell their house that's familiar with divorce? So building that team and then kind of working on the documents that are associated with divorce, the parenting plan, the marital settlement agreement, and building those with something that they can live with. Because this is, some of the parenting plan you can go back and adjust, but the marital settlement agreement, once it's done, it's done. So, a client could call me at the very beginning. They could call me. I have a client right now who hired a divorce attorney, got started with the process, served her soon-to-be ex-husband with the paperwork, is getting ready to go to mediation, crickets from her attorney. She's like, I need a new attorney. No problem. I have people. So, calling me in that situation, that's fine. Or I actually finished with her. I had another client who she finished her divorce. Her divorce was over. It's been years. She needs to redo the parenting plan, right? So coming back and talking about that and like what's best for your kids.
Right.
And figuring that out, that's another time. Or even like maybe your parenting plan is fine and maybe you met somebody new and you're getting married, or maybe your ex is getting married and you're trying to figure out like, what is this going to look like? How is this co-parenting going to be? Or maybe your ex is expecting a baby with somebody else. What's that going to be like? So there's a lot of different times that working with a divorce coach would make sense and be beneficial.
And it sounds like because you're in South Florida, is that where your teams and where you know the most people? Can you work with people out of state, or do you prefer to keep it strictly
Local.
to local people?
So when I meet with clients, I either do a Zoom session
Mm-hmm.
or a phone call. So I have a client that's in California, right? Which is totally fine. Now, I would say that I have more people in South Florida, but I also have a mediator that's in Chicago. I have a divorce realtor that's in Orlando. I have another mediator that's in Jacksonville. So I've built a referral bank that is all over the place, right? Because I'm constantly trying to connect with people on LinkedIn and then having Zoom sessions to get to know them so they can get
Right.
to know me and I can get to know them. Because if I have a client that's in Oklahoma, I want to be able to have a couple of people to refer them to, you know?
So primarily this is you networking, referrals, right? This is how someone most likely would find you, correct? Is through a referral, a divorce attorney, maybe
Google,
a Google search.
Instagram.
Okay.
Yep.
Going on podcasts.
Going on podcasts. Yeah, just all of those kind of things, you know? Like I have a client right now, he found me on Google. I have another client who, where I got my divorce certification from, they have a directory
Sure.
that all of the graduates are listed there. I've actually, this is my second client that I've gotten from that directory. So, variety of different places, you know. I have a couple of people that have reached out to me via Instagram. Hey, I saw your reel. I really liked it.
Yeah. So add another hat. Now you're like networking, social media specialist in addition to coaching and full-time single parenting.
Right.
Kudos to you, Cari.
Yeah.
I'm exhausted. I need a nap.
Ooh, I'm exhausted for you.
No wonder I need cough drops.
And coffee.
Yeah.
Right.
If somebody's listening and wants to reach out to you, what is the best way for them to get in contact with you?
So I have a Calendly link that they can set up a free meet and greet with me.
Okay.
They can find that either on my website, www.coachingwithcari.com, or on my Instagram, coaching_with_Cari.
And not to be confused with our Cari, it's Cari.
Yes. But I think most of the time, if you type in coaching_with_CA,
Right.
I might pop up. I'm
Okay.
hoping I will.
Well, we'll put those links in our podcast notes.
Awesome. Yeah, that's the best way to get started. And kind of, you know, I kind of direct a lot of people to my Instagram because they can see the kind of my underlying message of like, I'm really focused on kids. You know, I really want what's best for kids, people to be good parents, people to be good co-parents so they can raise good kids.
That is what Cari and I, that is our message all the time. We are here to help raise good independent humans.
Yes.
Yes.
So thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing our message as well as yours. If you have any questions for Cari D, that is, or our Cari, you can reach out to Cari on her links that we've provided, or you could always contact us with any questions you have at info@parentcoachesunleashed.com. Thanks for being with us today.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Parent Coaches Unleashed with Cari and Jessica. Together, we can raise the next generation of independent, capable, and compassionate young adults.
We encourage you to send us an email with questions and feedback to info@parentcoachesunleashed.com. Please remember, you are not alone on this parenting journey.